Do you know you look like Steve Smith from American Dad? Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. Now, it's the end of the month, which means it's time for the monthly Q&A. If you don't know how it works, each month I answer your guys' questions that you put in the comments section of the previous Q&A video. So if you want your guys' questions answered in the February Q&A, be sure to put them down in the comments below to have your chance to have them answered. And also be sure to thumbs up the ones that you want me to answer as well, because I do pay attention to that, and those are the ones that you guys want answered the most, so I take that into account. But without further ado, let's get right into it by starting off with our Patreon question. So to start off, Asdrarios asks, what is your opinion on TCG's latest choices to merge products? And quite frankly, this is only beneficial to the consumer. You know, if you want to merge both structure decks and release them at the same time, or if you want to close the gap from how long we get one product in Japan to one product in America, I mean, that just makes it all the better for us, which means more cards for us to play with, and ultimately, no complaints here. Ramiro Avalos asks, can you sing this favorite song verse from one of my favorite songs from the 90s, Vanilla Ice? Alright, stop. Shuffling and listen, Ice Bears with brand new innovation. Something totally awesome is salty. Problem tree toads daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Close down the shop and I'll glow. Topple locals and kick over sandhills. Ice Bears more than you can handle. Negates! I hope that satisfies you. Predator Magnus asks, have you achieved your final form? Well, as you can tell by the color of my beard is at Super Saiyan 4 as it currently stands. So once my beard starts glowing blue, I will have achieved Super Saiyan God, and then everything will be right in the world. Number Hunter 9 asks, would you rather watch someone draw Exodia turn 1 or sit through being poked with Yada until you lose? I've been on the receiving end of being poked by Yada until I lose. That was actually my very first experience at a locals when I was like 9 or 10. I don't even know. But pretty much that was like the most soul-crushing experience of my life. Aiden Fryhot, thank you so much for actually putting in the parentheses there, asks, do you like anime? If so, what is your favorite one? So I haven't really watched anime in a really long time. Like when I was a teenager, I watched it a lot more often, but my favorite anime of all time is probably, you know, other than Yu-Gi-Oh! It is probably Full Metal Alchemist. I don't know what it is about that show, but it is just so fucking awesome. Like the lore behind it, all of the, you know, reaches into history and all the different things like that, especially when you get into the movies, like with Shambhala and things like that. There's all these different, allusions to all these different things that I really enjoy about the show. There's a bunch of action, there's a ton of blood, like it's just, I love it. Like you get really invested in the characters, and I mean, I would rewatch that anime any day. Ignister Prominence the Blasting Draco Slayer asks, do you think the TCG will ever bring back any of the old banned cards like Yada or Witch of the Black Forest that aren't exactly the same now as they were back in the day, or will Konami just leave them in jail? So, I have always been against giving cards errata because I feel like if you're gonna neuter a card by just castrating it and just getting rid of like why it was so good in the first place, like print a new card that's going to be the shittier version of it. Like if I'm gonna be playing with Yata-Garasu, I want to play with fucking Yata-Garasu. If I'm gonna be playing with Chaos Emperor Dragon, I want to be playing with fucking Chaos Emperor Dragon. I don't want, like, shit nerfed version Chaos Emperor Dragon with a baby dick. Like, I want full power broken bullshit if they're going to even attempt to errata a card. Bakura asks, if any deck that's rogue could get broken support and become meta, what deck would you want to see get this support? This only includes decks that have never been meta or high tier. Easiest answer, Ice Barriers. And the reason why is because that would be the funniest shit to ever happen, because Ice Barriers just have the reputation of being the worst archetype like ever created. And so if Ice Barriers got like broken like tier 0 support, I just find that would be the most ironic thing that could ever happen. And then people would be like, man, remember when Ice Barriers sucked ass? Yeah, now look at it. Like, it would just, the conversations that would be happening from that, I can just imagine people, like, making the YouTube videos of, like, their reactions to, like, tier 0 Ice Barrier support. It has to be Ice Barriers. The Shadow Killer 97 asks, what was your biggest disappointment in Yu-Gi-Oh? And then kind of gives a few examples. My biggest disappointment was probably before I went on my hiatus from this game, like right during Dad Return format. I mean, I was really young at the time, so this is kind of justified because I couldn't work or anything, but it was kind of when I had the realization that Yu-Gi-Oh! Really requires, like, money if you want to play it, like, at a, like, consistently competitive level and do well, because, like, you can play decks, like, you can play casual decks competitively, but if you're not willing to spend some amount of money, like, it's just, pretty much it's just not gonna happen. Like, that's kind of the ultimate truth there. And at the time, like, I was really little, and so, like, I didn't have much money. Like, you know, I might have gotten an allowance for doing chores around the house, or maybe if I, like, tried to help around, like, my neighbors or something, like, that was pretty much all the money I could get my hands on, so it wasn't really often that I could get, like, the newest cards and the best cards, and I think everyone probably goes through that phase, especially when they're a little kid. Even people now, you know, if you can't afford the best stuff, I can really understand that. So, you know, I really think that was kind of my biggest disappointment, like, ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, when I came back to the game, you know, I had a job, I was pretty much almost done with school, so money wasn't really too much of an issue, you know, when I came back into the game, so I kind of didn't, and I kind of accepted that mindset, you know, accepting the mindset that, you know, you do have to pay for this game. That's kind of, you know, Konami's a business at the end of the day, and they need to make money. So, ultimately, if you kind of accept that mindset, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money, you know, you can ultimately have fun and do well, you know, competitively. A Yu-Gi-Oh! Noob named Scumps asks, will you be willing to answer my Q&A question? Jay Donner asks, what's the best way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Online right now? And unfortunately, YGO Pro/DevPro is the best way to do that. And I say unfortunately because, you know, I am a DN advocate because I feel that manual versus automatic simulation is much better and makes you better at the game. But, you know, I'm just grateful that we have some sort of simulator that we can play online, like that everything hasn't been taken down, so let's just be grateful for that. Seventh Soul, cool name, asks, Simo, how do you communicate a new ban list to yourself? Like, what do you focus on when a new ban list shows up? So, that's an interesting question. When I see a new ban list, I mean, the things you want to immediately look at are, like, the meta-relevant impact things. Like, so for example, on the upcoming ban list, like, if Kieran gets hit, which I'm, like, 99% certain is going to happen, like, that obviously is going to affect Metal Foes, because Metal Foes play Kieran. So, whatever card gets moved on the list, if you try to apply it to whatever meta-relevant deck at that current moment is in existence, then that's the best way to kind of start. And then you kind of work your way outward from there. So you start with the meta circle, and then kind of go out beyond that. Like, okay, how else can this card be used, or how else is it beneficial? And this more so applies to cards that get semi-limited or unlimited, like kind of like when Atlantean Dragoons went to 2. Like, obviously at the time, Water wasn't really the best deck, or wasn't really even like, it was more like a tier 2-ish deck, if that. And then once Atlantean Dragoons went to 2, in combination with Neptibus coming out, the deck has been pretty much tier 1/tier 1.5, or at least meta-relevant ever since. So, I say that's kind of the way I go about doing that. Mr. Blobby, that's a great name, asks, looking at BES, do you think Konami can make a good archetype out of anything by adding a field spell? Yes, because I think as long as terraforming exists in the game, that basically means that there's going to be 6 ways that you can access that field spell. And if they're going to give a field spell 4 effects, you know, they're going to give a field spell 4 effects. I mean, look at Lost World with dinosaurs. I mean, honestly, I'm not against that, because I actually really like that field spells are more prevalent than ever in the game, because I feel like before, field spells were just an afterthought. So, you know, if field spells are going to be incredibly powerful, and to the point where, like, they need to limit or even ban terraforming because of it, like, that's totally fine by me. You know, you made the field spell zone since day 1 of this game. Like, you might as well make it something good. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist 1993 asks, why were you not at the most recent Henderson, Nevada regional? And that is because when I was on my way, I hit a construction trench that was not flagged by cones and blew out my tire and bent my rim. So, as a result of that, there's a pretty good reason why I didn't attend the tournament, but everything's good now. I'm hopefully getting that repaired soon, and everything will be back to normal. Now, a few of you asked, what is your favorite deck when you first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh? Or something along the lines of, like, what was your first deck that you played competitively, or like something along the lines of that. So, my first deck that, like, I technically built, if you want to call it that, was Warrior Toolbox, which was, like, if you guys don't know, like, way back in the day, Warriors were kind of considered, like, the best type, because a lot of warrior monsters were just incredibly strong. There was like Marauding Captain, Dawn Zalug, Exiled Force, like I could keep going on. And so warriors were an incredibly strong archetype, just like all the standalone monsters. If you put them together, like, they're pretty good standalone cards. And so, you know, with that paired with Reinforcement of the Army, which I believe was only at 1, I mean, eventually it went to 1, but it was cool because Rhoda allowed you to tutor for basically any warrior in your deck that you needed at that given moment, so it was kind of like the first way to, like, really search out the kind of combo piece that you need, not necessarily even a combo piece, but, like, the best card for the best situation. So it wasn't really, like, a really good deck by any means, and, like, this is, like, back when pretty much everyone in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just played with, like, the best cards that you pretty much could, because that's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Worked. So, you know, it was a really funny deck. Like, I would just love to rebuild it one day just to see what it would look like. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like, DD Warrior Lady was in there, DD Assailant. The DD cards were really good back in the day. There's a lot of good warrior-type monsters like that. If you start looking, like, anywhere from, like, Dark Crisis, Pharaonic Guardian, like, back, there's some pretty solid warrior cards that might not be as, you know, impressive today, but back in the day were really fucking good. Alan Kozalak asks, do you think there will be reprints of all the high-rarity Zodiac cards after Konami made it sweet, juicy money? I think they're just going to just make a ban list right after YCS Seattle and probably just hit the deck like they did with Full Power Pepe. So that's probably, you know, it's pretty comparable to what you're saying. Oathkeeper75 asks, can you ask the Magic Conch what I should play next format? Oh, great Magic Conch. What should Oathkeeper75 play next format?
Nothing.
The shell has spoken!
Shivendra Haraprasad, which I probably completely wrecked that name, asks, do you think with the meta shifting to Zodiacs in the upcoming format, and with the slow decline in Pot of Desires, that rogue or non-tier decks can more economically be made competitive? I actually think the opposite. I think that if you're not playing Zodiac, and you're playing any deck besides Zodiac, you need to play Pot of Desires to basically have the extra draw power to be able to keep up with Zodiac. Because if you look at the OCG, that's a pretty fairly common trend as well, aside from like the newer stuff like the Dinosaur stuff and like True Kings, but anything else that's like not a Zodiac variant or True Kings is like, you need Pot of Desires still. So the thing is though, probably in the Megatins, Pot of Desires is more than likely going to get a reprint alongside Dimensional Barrier as well. At least I'm predicting, I could be wrong. But so that'll definitely bring down the cost, but you're still going to need those cards if you want to play with a non-tier deck competitively. Nasser Al-Dual, which I, again, probably completely butchered that, I apologize, asks, did you hear the rumors about the new game and summoning mechanics? And if you did, what do you think about it? P.S. Big fan from Saudi Arabia. Jesus Christ, Saudi Arabia, that's insane that people watch my videos, like, that far across the world. Anyway, I think it's complete bullshit because there is no way in hell that they're going to add, like, more zones and shit to this game. Like, this game is already fucking complicated enough that they can't make it more complicated. Like, they're not gonna put it up to 12K. They're not gonna add, like, a second extra deck. Like, this is just complete bullshit rumor. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but, like, the chances of this happening are, like, slim to none. TJ Deathmark asks, do you think you can become Gandalf with that awesome beard? Well, once it grows all the way to the length of Gandalf's, then I think we'll be there. Deathly Bioshock asks, will you reveal the secret affair you're having with Jonathan Moore? Oh, fuck, John, he's on to us!
Oh, crap.
Michael Anzulovich, which again, I'm working on the name, I'm working on it, asks, so is your girlfriend going to make an appearance on the channel or not? I need to know. We were actually talking about that the other day because we were trying to come up with like a cool way to do it, and I think we came up with a really good idea, and we might do it for like the 20K sub special, because I'm gonna probably hit 20K subs next month, if not the following, so if anything, we'll probably do it for that, so I hope you guys enjoy that. Silver Starstream asks, considering that you make different kinds of videos, top 10, card reviews, how to play, etc., which is your favorite to make? Ooh, that's a really good question. Probably either an introduction to or how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they're the most, like, heavily editing intensive videos. Like, they demand the most editing, but at the same time, they're so rewarding once they're done, because if you think about it, like, in an abstract way. Like, if you're trying to just teach someone how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or you're trying to teach someone how to play a deck, it may seem really easy at first, but then when you actually, like, think about it, like, you'll be reading through, like, if you're typing out a script, you actually have to read back and say, like, oh, they might not know what this is, so you have to find a way to explain that. And it almost just becomes like a giant puzzle of, like, how is the best way that I can explain this to someone that they understand it, and, you know, still make it, like, entertaining for the viewers as well. So I find that those are probably my favorite videos to make. As tedious as they can be sometimes, it's such a gratifying feeling, like, once you actually get it done. It just feels so rewarding, and it's so stimulating. I love it. Red X Cosmics 93 asks, what happened to the Ogama bonfire you promised in the Neg 600 case opening? Okay, so what happened with that is I had the whole thing recorded out, and then what happened was everything from, like, the last video I posted onward, including the bonfire, the files all got corrupted, and I couldn't post it. Like, I was trying to recover them, and it's just sad because it was really funny, and I'm really sad I didn't get that out, so sorry about that. Grizz MD asks, Simo, I just left the game like a half a year ago, and I want to get back into it. What would be a cheap $100 deck good enough to get back into the game? And it looks like Predator Magnus already answered your question. Robert Huizar asks, can we play some Overwatch maybe? As a fan, I think it'd be really cool. That's a really interesting idea, like if I do like a game night with Simo kind of thing, where we don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Necessarily, but, you know, we play like some Xbox stuff, or like just anything that isn't really Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, just another way just to hang out with you guys. I think that's a really cool idea. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that one. MGPK Studios asks, do you think Zodiacs are going to be more broken than Full Power Pepe? No. And finally, Wolf for Smash Bros. Asks, what advice would you give to someone who's kept up with the meta for about the past year, but has never really played in real life tournament, but wants to start doing so in the next couple of weeks? Also, I've played only extremely casually with my friends in real life, blah, 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 blah. So, if you're gonna plan on playing in real life, realize that it's a lot different than, like, playing in an online simulator, because, you know, your opponent, like, there's, like, just different gestures and stuff. You know, your opponent might not realize that, like, you want to, like, do something in response or something like that. So make sure that, like, you're communicating with your opponent. I'd say that's very important. And, you know, just have a good time with it. If you're keeping up with the meta, you know, you should know what people are playing, so that's, you know, very advantageous. But overall, just try to make some friends, and, you know, just have a good time with it. If you make friends at the shop, they're always going to be there because they're always playing, and that's usually the best thing. The thing I look forward to more than actually going to play is actually seeing the people at the shops around me. And that's gonna do it for this month's Q&A, guys. Remember, if you want your questions answered in February's Q&A, put them down in the comments below and thumbs up the comments you want me to answer, because I do pay attention to that. Thank you guys so much for all the support. It's meant a lot. January was a really awesome month, but I think February is gonna be even better. So as always, guys, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, back me on Patreon, and we'll see you next time.